Hi, my name is Alyssa Lube, and welcome to my channel. I am a trained sex educator with years of experience, and my goal in making videos like this is not to rage bait people. It's mostly just to take a closer look at the purity culture that really has damaging effects on a lot of the people in this country. And I know this because I've worked with these people as coaching clients. We've gotten these calls on Chewed Gum, which is the live call-in show I do on the line every Tuesday night. So I like to take a look at these videos because I think it's important that we know the conversations that are happening on the other side of the fence. And I also think it is important that if there are people who are sort of questioning what this experience has brought them, that they can hear from a person who is wanting to share research-backed, evidence-supported information about sexuality. So that's what we're going to do today. To be fully transparent, I watched a video from this podcast literally right before this, and something was wrong with my microphone and it didn't pick up any of the audio. And I actually agreed with a lot of what they were sharing. So I'm curious to see how I will feel about this one. The first video I watched from the podcast, Girls Gone Bible, was about dating do's and don'ts. And my main complaint in all of this is a lot of what they were sharing was actually helpful advice, but they would do it through the lens of God and Jesus, and it's just not necessary. It adds like another layer of stress and responsibility to it that you don't need to be held responsible by anyone. It's like these are your choices in your life, and you are creating it every single day based on the information that you have in your big juicy brain. So I find this many times with religious folks that they like to give credit. Bonnie is here. Hold on. This is Bonnie. Eee. She's my 14-year-old Chihuahua. And if you hear any snoring, it is her. What was I talking about? Oh, I see this a lot with religious folks that they want to give so much credit to God and to Jesus for things that they absolutely should take credit for. Like you getting to know yourself and using that information to find a partner that really works for you. That is you. You did that, and you should feel so proud of that. Why are you giving all of the credit to someone else? It never made sense to me. Today, we are going to watch a video called Sex Before Marriage. This one feels like it will be more interesting. In a way, I'm kind of glad that I lost the audio on the first one because it was very chill. While I'm always looking for nuance in these conversations, I think that maybe it could have potentially been a little bit of a boring video to watch. So we're going to watch Sex Before Marriage. That's lock in, okay?
Hi, I'm Ari.
And I'm Ange. And this is Girls Gone Bible. We are a faith-based podcast where we talk all things spirituality, mental health, relationships. Here, we love Jesus. We live by him. We breathe by him. We cannot make a decision without consulting Jesus first. We love the Bible. We
That's
are
what I was
believers
talking
of the
about.
God of the Bible. And what am I
Come as you are,
saying?
just don't stay that way.
Come as you are, just don't stay that way.
That's a cute phrase. I also want to say really quickly that these girls are adorable. They clearly are friends in real life. In the first video that I filmed, I had said I would kill for hair like theirs, and they were giving me nail insecurity. They have what I call nice girl nails, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's that light pink, it's the almond shape, it's all of it. I have the nails of an 8th grader going to Warped Tour right now, and it's usually not like this. I'm going through something. I haven't had the time. Okay. But like I said, when I watched the first video, I felt like I kind of like these girls. They give really sound advice, at least in that first one, of dating do's and don'ts. And then I went to their Instagram, and what I was seeing felt like spooky evangelical mega church vibes in a way that just really frightens me. I'll show you exactly what I mean. It's like this type of stuff. Spooky. And then and you know, they're wearing all white, which feels very culty, but I'm sure it's for like purity reasons. It's like, it's the this and then voting to take away people's rights. It's like it's that dichotomy that really challenges me. You know, that's what their tours are like. They tour. Also, this is one of her pinned posts. And I remember once seeing this thing. It was like, it must have been like a meme or something. And it was like, can you imagine being Jesus and coming back and like seeing that imagery all over the place in people's homes and just being like, that was a really bad day for me. And just for you to like expose my trauma like that is just a lot. I think that's really funny. But yeah, Bloody Jesus pinned on her page. I am going to put this on 1.25 speed again because that does help to move us along. I mean, it's a podcast. They're expecting you to watch for an hour. I want to just be able to get through, give my comments, move on with my day.
Be careful what you ask for, because he answers. He does. So I was so inspired by this woman that I met a few weeks ago, who she just basically tells all these stories about how she does not leave the house without leading somebody to salvation. Like every single day, if she leaves her house, she's leading somebody, she's giving the gospel to somebody.
This episode's, we're a minute and 34 seconds in, already more spooky than the first one, because this is the thing that always makes me laugh, because Christians are always talking about how they're persecuted in the US. It always makes me laugh that people think that their faith is under fire and that they can't practice openly, when like it's pretty common for people who are Bible thumpers to be thumpity thumping all over town. I also know that Ange does not cuss. I do. I'm trying to curse a little less, because I do think it's probably like not so becoming, but I like to express myself, okay?
Whatever. I am so inspired by that I begin to pray all day, every day. Lord, give me opportunity, give me boldness, give me the chance, give me wisdom, show me how to talk to people, and just give me the boldness to not
Baby,
be
you
like,
have a
you're gonna think.
Baby, you have a podcast with 842K subscribers. You need to do more sharing than that. How much more evangelizing do you feel you need to do?
And I go to creation and I'm like that. I was late to record today. I'm late. I like didn't have my makeup, whatever. I go to get a smoothie and then I look up and I literally, this is what it feels.
I was going to say, I was like, she's talking about creation, and I'm going to gather now that they filmed this in LA, because creation with a K is a health food cafe style smoothies, salad, sandwiches type thing. So as she's saying creation over and over again, I'm like, is this like a religious thing, or is she going to like literally creation to get a green juice? And it's literally creation to get a smoothie.
Was like, forgot to highlight somebody too. I'm like looking down, I look up at the girl who's taking my order and I go, and it literally feels like God went, wake up. And I'm like, oh, who do you live with? And she's like, my partner, my girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, okay. It happens, but my tongue like gets tied. And I go, you're so special and amazing. I hope to see you soon. And I knew as I'm having a conversation with her, all I can hear is like, she has the wrong idea about me. Like God is saying she has been told things, she has been made to feel certain things, probably because of the way that she lives her life. Like the way she lives her life has caused her to look at God in a way that he is not. I was like, this is so weird. She's probably like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is probably so weird, but I'm a Christian and I just want you to know, like, I literally tried leaving and I couldn't, because I felt so heavy on my heart that God wants you to know that he loves you so much. And I know you probably have all these ideas about him and people have made you feel like you're not good enough for him or the way whatever. And I was like, but that's not true. He wants you. He loves you. And, and he's pursuing you. And then she's like, the look in her eye, like, this is a girl, you know that she's probably not a Christian just by whatever outward appearances. And she's like, honestly, thank you. She's so receptive. She goes, thank you so much. She goes, I grew up Christian.
That's
I knew
hilarious.
it. I literally knew it. She's like, I grew up Christian and like, whatever. And she's like, but that, you have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you. I hope you come back. And I
see, now she's lucky that girl was so nice to her, because I really think that if someone came up to me like that, I'd be like, don't piss me off. I mean, whatever. I'm sure I would be nice and polite, but she's lucky that person was very receptive, because this is what I'm saying. Could you imagine if someone who was Muslim did exactly that same thing? It would be handled in a completely different way. Oh, could you imagine if a Jewish person did a similar thing? With what's going on right now, especially, it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous. Christians love to say that they're being prosecuted, and it's just so not happening. It's so not true. And it's also not your business to say this to people. I also think it was hilarious that she said, based on the way that she presented, that she was not accepted in the church, which is, that's something for you to look at. Here's the thing. She had enough recognition to say, this is a person who probably does not feel welcomed by the church. Speak to your congregation, speak to your people, because they are the ones who are creating a dangerous, quite literally life-threatening circumstance for people like that woman at creation. And what she needed, I promise you, is not to hear you tell her that Jesus loves her. What she needs is for you to speak to your fellow Bible thumpers and tell them that you need to be accepting of all people and that the human rights of every single person matter. And you cannot keep voting away these people's rights and then go see them in public places and say, Jesus loves you. Why the hell would she believe that? Why would she believe that? Truly. Give her a reason to believe that that's true. Show me with your actions, not with your words. And by that, I mean, go to the rest of the people who do not feel that way and are not willing to give and not only are not willing to be welcoming to all kinds of people, but are also doing quite the opposite and prosecuting them. Because ultimately, you can't force faith upon people, but you should be able to take this love and affection that you have for this stranger and feel inspired enough to create a movement among these other people who insist on being so hateful.
I want you to know that like the evangelistic call that we all have on our lives is one of the most important parts of our faith. Yes, you and your relationship with Jesus, so important. But it's not just for you. It's for, we're called to go and make disciples. Okay.
Wait, that's actually crazy because she's saying that it's important for you to evangelize for yourself. And then she's like, it's not just you though. Like, is that how they're viewing it? Is it's important for them? Like it feels like an MLM. It's like, it's important for you to evangelize. That will get you into heaven, but it's not actually about this other person that you're trying to like inspire into this faith. That is so interesting. This video is already way more interesting than the other one that I watched. And it's so funny because even now it's like I find myself feeling the pretty privilege from these girls because they're like gorgeous and give very like popular girl energy to me. And I think that that is like one of the things that's dangerous about when we have people who are in any sort of leadership role and they are really good looking. It's like, okay, well, now we're in trouble, you know? It's the hot Christian girls. You guys are the most dangerous, the most dangerous and unsuspecting of this whole group because while I don't think that they've been like majorly toxic so far from what I've seen, they could be evil. They could be evil and probably get away with it. With hair like that and a lip combo like that, you could be evil. I just wanted to recognize how that is affecting me in this moment because I feel like that's a very human feeling, and I just wanted to share.
Everyone's failing in every single one of their relationships around us. And it's really sad to watch. And so today we're going to talk about the implications of sex before marriage.
Yeah. This has been something, you know, you guys know that we've done a purity episode, which is one of our most watched videos, obviously. And that was, you know, I don't even remember when that was. Like, was that a year ago? I couldn't express
myself. Now I'm like going in the middle of the streets, like yelling at people to stop having sex. I'm so bold with it now.
I know. No, you really are so good about that. Ari will literally meet someone and be like, you having sex? Okay, well, you know, right? That is.
Okay, well, sorry, ladies. I literally make it my mission to undo everything that you're doing.
Sin leads to death. There's just such a beauty in the. Okay, well, you know, right? That sin leads to death. There's just such.
Did she just say, you know, sin leads to death? Girls, be so serious right now. You're telling people if they have sex before marriage that they're gonna die. Okay, actually, and I'm sorry, we're like 7 minutes in and I just can't shut my trap. In the first video that I watched, the dating do's and don'ts, Ange, the woman who's on the screen right now, she was talking a lot about how people are putting so much pressure on themselves when they go on dates with people that they don't want to be going on a date with someone who is not their future husband, who's not their future wife. She actually had really good advice, similar to advice that I've given before, which is you are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you to be potential partners, and you're looking for compatibility. You're not trying to impress the other person. You're looking for compatibility, which I think is great advice. She talked about this pressure that people feel. And I agree that there is a pressure, whether you're in a religious space or you're just, getting to a phase of your life where you are looking for marriage or a really long-term partner, or just, one that has more like intimacy or depth, or however you want to phrase it. You can put a lot of pressure on yourself to immediately know that answer in the very beginning, when in reality, like, it's going to take some time. Sometimes you end up finding a person and it hits you like a bus and you know from the jump. But that's not always the case for people. So to then have a conversation like this, where do you think that pressure is coming from, Ange? Maybe it's you telling people that if they sin, they will die. Can you imagine the pressure that they must have, making sure that whatever line that they're towing is not going to cross over into what's considered a sin? Because saying sex can mean different things to different people. And so now you've created a situation where all of these people are petrified that they're going to die because of their sin. That you're creating that.
Such a beauty in the way that you do things. But yeah, we want to have a conversation. And yes, it is.
That doesn't sound like a beautiful situation. It sounds like a friggin' terrorist.
Biblical. It is derived from and originates from, what God says about us and our bodies and marriage and sex. And there is something about the Christian walk that you can be a legitimately devout follower of Jesus and still be having sex before marriage. And it's just like normalized in our culture that this is the one area, like, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, be a good person. But if you have sex, like, you know what I mean?
Because it's not one of the 10 commandments. Yeah, lying, stealing, cheating, those are do you not know your own commandments? Don't screw your neighbor's wife. That's one of them. But that's not the same. I just confirmed, because it's been a while, there is nothing about premarital sex in there. So yeah, it is different. And what you've created is a rule that y'all have made up culturally. I'm not an expert in the Bible. Promise would be a great person to ask, because oh my God, if you don't know who Promise is, Eve was framed on all of her socials, and she's amazing. And she has deconstructed from the evangelical faith. And so she knows the Bible backwards, forwards, upside down, in the dark. And she would be a great person to ask. But if it's not in the 10 commandments, why are you comparing it on the same tier as other things that are in the 10 commandments, and then saying that it's the same?
And you are headed into a horrible, horrible direction, and it ruins lives. It ruins lives. I'm just going to jump right out the gate and saying, I am so tired of seeing my friends and so many people out there in these 4 or 5 year long, 2, 3, 4, 5 year long relationships. We are having sex every single day, and then they break up.
God forbid.
And it literally ruins their lives. Like, people wonder why breakups are so painful. You're having sex. Like, I don't even know how to express. I don't even have the words to. I wish Jesus himself could come down and tell us what he thinks about it, so it could get into our heads, because that's how bad it is. What I've experienced even in my own life, and like, I have been in long-term relationships since I was young, and intimacy before marriage was always a part of my relationships, and I have no shame in saying that. I didn't know. And on top of it, I have lived with boyfriends while being like, it's just all, I've done that twice, where I've
Sinner, chicken dinner. And what? One of the things that I always think is so funny about Christianity is they have this like magical undo button, and that is going to confession. Actually, it was like the day of confession, literally yesterday. And I know that because my parents went. What stops people from being like insane their whole lives and then just like going to confession to undo it? And then you still get to heaven. I always wonder that. But wow, I'm sorry that you had a really hard time in all of your breakups, but I think that that's important, because it helps you learn, it helps you grow, it helps you understand that spending time with a person who is not a good fit for you, who doesn't make you feel good, who is not aligned on the things that you're looking for in that moment, is not worth it. And you can learn that lesson whether you've been intimate or not. And of course, like, the intimacy creates more closeness. So to that degree, I understand. I'm not going to be naive and say that like it doesn't bring a lot more depth and seriousness to a relationship, but why shouldn't it? Feel everything. Like, feel the heartbreak, feel the feeling of being in love, like feel everything. It's your right as a human being to feel all of those things. This is ridiculous. Breakups are hard no matter what, but she's describing it now after she's Miss Purity culture with a completely different lens where she's looking at herself with shame and judgment. It's not necessary. You obviously are fine. I think she has a boyfriend now. So, like, you're fine. You're on the other side of it. Like everyone else always is when they go through a breakup. You get to the other side of it at some point and you learn a lot about yourself in the process. Oh, jeez.
And you're not actually in covenant with God to where you're protected in that. You have no legal binding that like enforces any sort of commitment. Someone can like up and leave you in 2 seconds. I mean, it is
Married
just
people can do that too, by
absolutely
the way.
wild, the world that we live in. How does it make sense to do the most sacred act ever of all time, the most spiritually, emotionally, and physically binding thing you can do with someone? It is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Okay, so the reason that it does make sense is because it helps you understand who you are sexually as a partner. You can get a better idea of what you're looking for, and so you can have sexual compatibility be a part of your relationship. It's funny because actually when I look at the situation, I'm like, you are talking about living together and how hard that breakup is because you were intimate with each other. Can you imagine the seriousness of breaking up with a person after you've been married and you find out that you are not compatible? Why would you not want to take little bits and pieces of incrementally investing into this relationship instead of going from dating and no intimacy to married? And now you're living with a person that you've never lived with before. You're experiencing intimacy with a person you've never had intimacy before. And now you're also legally bound to the person. That makes more sense to you?
It's dangerous to do that outside of marriage. There is no covering. And inside of marriage, it is the most beautiful thing that literally got its worship, like God, it matters.
This is also another thing that drives me crazy about this whole purity culture stuff is they're making it sound like something magical happens before you get married and after you get married that makes sex so different, when in reality, the love and care that you have for each other shouldn't change that much, whether you have a piece of paper that binds you together. You are building up this experience to be something that it will probably not be for most people. What you are doing is so much more dangerous. You are putting people in a position where they are not fully prepared and informed, in my opinion, of what their partner is going to be offering them in this life. And then you're making it seem like the very first time is going to be like this scene from Snow White when she wakes up and the birds are opening the curtains and whatever. It's like it's not realistic. What we have to remember is when we are looking at the realities of life, we have to consider like the goal-oriented approach. The most direct example I can think of is in teaching abstinence-only education versus medically accurate, comprehensive sex education. If you want your child to wait before they have sex until they are, in her case, married, but in other cases, maybe like young adults, the way you do that is by teaching them. And we see that in the statistics. The states in the United States that have medically accurate, comprehensive sex education are the states with fewer teenage pregnancies, fewer STIs. They also have a youth population that is having sex later in life and with fewer partners in their lifetime than the states that have abstinence only education. You're being so idealistic about what humans actually want and what they're actually going to do. So I would so much rather be realistic, give people the tools and the information so that they can make their own informed choices, because this BS doesn't work. It doesn't. And we see that over and over and over again. Never mind how in these communities of people that are supposed to be exhibiting purity, we see over and over again predators. We see sexual predators. So at what point are you going to take a step back, look at the situation that you're creating and say, this doesn't work.
Chad Veach said that that's how he fights spiritual warfare with his wife. If there's an attack on their marriage, that's a way to fight spiritually, to bind yourselves back together, to say to the devil, no, you're not tearing this apart.
I've seen Paul and Morgan talk about this before, where they will force themselves to have sex with each other even when they don't want to, because they think that it will reunite the two of them and, I guess, eliminate whatever the original concern or conflict was. What an unhealthy way to resolve things. I mean, you've resolved nothing and you've now weaponized intimacy and sex. That's a horrible idea. Don't do that.
But outside of marriage, it is the most dangerous, harmful thing you can do to yourself.
You're in a relationship and you then bring sex in it outside of marriage. You are so clouded and blinded by the lust. You don't know if that's real love. Of course, you're going to think you love this person. You're having sex. It's a dopamine hit. You're on a high. Feelings getting involved. Of course that. So you will never know if it's truly love. And that's why the divorce rate is so high. And that's why you get it.
No. I hate this. It makes me so angry. Give people more credit than that. Let people also experience things. It's important to have these moments where, like, you really throw yourself in there and you crash and burn, because it gives you a real grip on what you want and what you don't want, which is so important. Boundaries and confirmation of what you want and what you don't want. And the way that you do that, honestly, is when the stakes are high, when you know your feelings are involved. That's when you really lock in on what you're looking for. You're trying to baby people into this and it's not going to work. It doesn't work. The divorce rate being so high, there's a million reasons why that's the case. And it's largely because women are able to support themselves. It's not a requirement for women to be married to be able to own a home, have a mortgage, have a credit card, take out a small business loan. It is not a direct line like that. And Christian folks love to draw that direct line, and it's just not true.
We all of a sudden, after 5 years, he says, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't think I'm ready.
Oh, what are we talking about?
What are we doing?
What, please?
And that's a really hard and hurtful thing to happen. And I know obviously that does happen to people, but think of how different those relationships would go if we were armed with information that could help us properly communicate our wants and needs to our partner. If you are able to communicate clearly to a partner, 2 years in, that we should start to consider our timeline for getting married. That's something that I really want. That's a priority to me. And take seriously what their response is. That's a whole different thing. You don't need, it's just misguided and it doesn't make any sense. And it's just not, you think that you're not being judgmental. You are. You're creating this shame around people, even if you don't believe you are, in the language that you're using. Even if you're not saying that exactly, that's the message that you're communicating. You're creating shame for these people, presumably mostly women, because it's primarily their job to be in control of the lust, usually in these environments. Oh boy.
When we talk about this, I don't want anyone to condemn themselves.
Yes.
I spent many months just living in shame, and God took every broken piece that I went through and he used it and he redeemed me and he restored me, and he's still restoring me.
Yeah.
And that's the implication that I have to deal with living in sin.
But imagine if you didn't have to deal with that, like it made you into the worst person on earth. Imagine if that was just not the case and that was not even a question in all of this. It was a situation where you felt that this was going to be a relationship that was going to go the distance and it didn't work out. And now you can take a step back and you can look at what this partner offered you, what you created in that relationship, and see where you get to shift things around for the next time. No shame required. You're telling people that you shouldn't feel shame, but I did. I felt so much shame for months and months and months. Huh?
Life. He was calling me into a season of complete singleness, and so many of us are operating in a place of loneliness. I was so lonely and I was still chasing something, and he was being like, you think you love me and you think you know me, and I know you're still getting to know me, but you really need to understand me. You really need to seek me. You're still searching in all these things when you need to search me.
Yeah.
For anyone who didn't.
Before we get into this next section, I'm going to do another part for this video. I'm enjoying this so far. There's a lot more feedback I have in this episode than I did with the first one. I do agree that being single is important for you to get to know yourself, independent from a partner. It's an important way to show yourself that you have the ability to be independent. It's just they always do everything in the lens of doing things for God, doing things for Jesus. Why have you never done anything for yourself? Like, you know, I know that they would have an answer for that feels good to them. For me personally, it's a no from me, dog. No. Okay, I will do a part 2 of this video reacting to this. Let me know in the comments if you like to have 2-part videos, part 1 Tuesday, part 2 Thursday, or if you like to sort of like switch it up. Let me know. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. 60% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. When you are subscribed and liking the content, it helps push this out into the algorithm so that other people who are kind of dealing with an uphill battle with purity culture are able to find this safe place to feel safe and good every day. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you. Oh, wait, where's Bonnie? And we will see you in the next one. I love you. Do you know that? Okay.